Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bun, and welcome to our Before on Apple TV Plus Season 1, Episode 5 reaction and review. Who wants to talk about worms or imaginary worms? See, I'm holding a worm right now. You guys just can't see it.
Oh, that's something.
It's something special. Listen, everybody. This episode made me think that I was on something. And granted, this is not the first time that Before has made me think this, but when we get to the point where we're doing, I don't know, operations to remove worms that may or may not be there.
Listen, this is the first episode where I feel like I'm finally starting to find my footing on some of what is going on. I think that this episode revealed quite a lot. I've been feeling like Noah and Eli are the same person. I mean, we even saw again in this episode, Eli closes his door and sees his reflection as Noah. Like, we have seen so much of that throughout this. I was just like, what is it? Is it like he's looking at himself in the past, or like, how is this happening? I feel like we're starting to really get information from this episode on what could be going on. Not everything when it comes to Lynn and her death and what happened to her, but at least what's going on with Eli and Noah and why they seemingly know a lot about each other.
This show is a psychological drama, a thriller. It's been billed like that a million different times. So I think as we get into this episode and really the rest of the season, we probably need to view that in as much of a psychological lens as possible. I mean, unfortunately, I am not a therapist. I am not a psychiatrist. I know as much about psychology as Google allows me to learn, and that's where my basis is for a lot of the theories that we have to talk about this time around.
Yeah.
But before, of course, we get into more about Before, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss any other reviews the rest of the way. This is also, by the way, a really great time to have Apple TV Plus because in addition to talking about Before, Bad Sisters just started, which is just like this insanely dark and interesting mystery show. It's in season 2. And also, this week, Silo is back, y'all. We're so back. We have a lot of fun stuff coming when it comes to Silo season 2.
We are also going to be covering Dune Prophecy with weekly video reviews exclusively on our Patreon. We just finished up The Penguin. We're moving into Dune Prophecy. We're very excited about it. So definitely check that out. We will have a link for you below in our description if you do want to join and check out our Dune Prophecy video reviews every week. And it also really helps out Matt and I here at the channel. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much here.
Okay, tinfoil hats on.
All right.
Nice and early in this video.
Let's do it.
Okay, here's the theory. So Eli has been talking about the idea that Noah has conversion disorder, which is basically like he's transferring his thoughts, his mental thoughts into something that is physical, and he's transferring them to other people. So as Noah was going, he had collapsed as he was going by on the gurney. Other kids were starting to collapse as well, and that he's transferring what's happening to him to other people. Eli is convinced that that is what is happening and that it is all psychological. I am also convinced that that is what is happening, but it is not Noah that is doing it. It is Eli that has this disorder, and he is transferring it to Noah, who is then transferring it to other people. And that is why Noah seemingly knows about the farmhouse and seemingly knows about Lynn, because it is Eli that is transferring this disorder onto him. The name of this episode is, and I'm going to butcher this, Folie à Dieu, which is the name of this episode, but it's also the name of a really rare psychiatric condition where 2 or more people share a delusion or a delusional belief. And this conversion disorder is something where your mental health, this disorder will take something that is feeling like it's only your mental health, something that's inside your mind, but it's actually transferring it into something that's physically happening to you and can be happening to other people. Again, I'm not like a therapist or anything like that. I'm Dr. Google right now. So I'm just repeating what I read online.
Listen, we both did this going into, because neither one of us had really heard that much about conversion disorder going into
No,
this.
no.
So I did basically the same thing. And what I was kind of really looking at here is trying to basically, much like any other person in the internet world, we want to try to take everything that we know and use it to adapt to our own agenda. And my agenda in these videos has been pushing this idea that, okay, maybe Lynn wasn't killed or died in the bathtub, that
Right.
Lynn actually died in the pool, and that Noah and Eli were both there at the time in which it happened. So here I am taking this idea of conversion disorder, and it's like, I agree with you to some extent that Eli has conversion disorder. I think that maybe Eli and Noah both have conversion disorder,
They could.
and they're both sort of passing this on, because I still think that both of them were there when Lynn died at the pool, and this is sort of the way in which the trauma of that is manifesting itself into all other sorts of different places. I mean, if we're going to get really, really crazy about this, did Lynn originate the conversion disorder to some extent? Because I'm thinking a lot about the tapes that we got in this episode, and this person, BW, who is actually Benjamin Walker, who is an ex of Lynn's in the past. And per those tapes, you had BW talking all about the worms, and we know where the worms are going, but if he really was talking about the worms, then maybe Lynn was inflicting something upon him that she also inflicted upon these other people. Or was this just Eli thinking that BW was talking about the worms and he made it all up in his head?
Yeah, he easily could have. He could have been hearing these tapes and hearing what he thought he was hearing, and we don't know, right? Because even when he was trying to like play this for Noah, and Noah has this like look on his face, was anything actually playing? We don't know. We saw Eli cut into Noah's head, try and pulled out this worm, but nothing was there. So is it possible that there's nothing on these tapes either, and that he is just projecting mentally what he thinks is happening?
That scene with the worm, as uncomfortable as it was to watch.
Oh my God.
I'm not somebody who is just like really, really afraid of medical procedures, but seeing this happen to, a kid on this show and the way in which it ended, it was pretty gruesome. But this is really one of the first, like, really, really tangible examples that we have of this show, of Eli doing something directly to another person that's not fully real. We have seen him have conversations with Lynn, who's not actually there, and other people call it out. But this is one of the first times we have seen real direct evidence that something involving him and Noah is not true. So I think now we have to look at this and then look back at some other things that we've seen between the two of them, including, the mad game from earlier this season where Noah said, I know what you did, or something to that extent. Then, like, how much of that was real? Because these are things that nobody else was around for.
Absolutely. And I really think the idea of maybe Benjamin and Lynn being the connection to Eli makes a lot of sense of then why we're getting into worms. And, if you're watching From, that's been going on over there as well, except there were actual worms going on there. But it's really interesting because we have Benjamin who is talking about the worms. Then we have Lynn who has drawn this picture of these two children that Noah's like, yeah, it's me and you. It's both, it's you, it's me, holding hands, standing in this forest where there's all these swirls around. Then we have Noah drawing this picture of this face with what looks like water or swirls, but later we realize they're worms, and that's what's swirling around, and they're all around the head, right?
Yeah.
So has it been a transfer of this disorder from Benjamin to Lynn to Eli, who is now doing this to Noah?
It's a fair question to wonder about, just like it's a fair question to wonder, even though we know that the worm was not physically there. In Eli doing this, though, is it actually going to psychologically help something? Like, does he think in his mind, okay, I've helped Noah now, things are going to be better for Noah, I have cured him? Or is this not going to do anything at all?
Or it could be a breakthrough for Eli. I mean, Eli has thought all this time
Yeah.
that Noah is the person that is having some sort of mental health issues or psychological break, and that he is the person that is there to help him. However, we have seen signs throughout the season already that maybe it could be Eli. I mean, we saw with the pen that he thought that he had given to Noah, but he never did. It's like it's there at a party with him. And now he's actually physically hurt Noah to pull out a worm that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And he has now seen it for himself when he's holding it up and he's like, look, it's here. There's that moment that he then snaps out of it and is like, oh, wow, there's nothing there. Is this the moment then that really changes things around for Eli, where he starts to look in to himself as the person that has this disorder?
I think it's at the very least going to be the moment where he starts to second guess everything that he has seen and heard so far from Noah. I mean, we do at the very least know that something is wrong with Noah to the extent that other people, not Eli, are aware of it just because of what ended up happening with him earlier on in this episode and how he ended up impacting other patients. So there's like a certain part of reality that's here, but at the same time, there's a lot of reality with Noah that may not be here when it comes to Noah's relationship with Eli. It's just like this show is so weird and so maddening at times because it may be in a situation where come the finale, we'll be able to differentiate what was real and what wasn't, but they may never actually tell us, and we just have to be prepared for that.
I feel like they're going to tell us. I think they're going to let us know what is going on. This does not feel like a show that's going to take us on a ride to nowhere land. I think we are going to get there. I think now that we have this conversion disorder as a thing that's on the table that Eli thinks is happening, that Noah is doing this, there's the idea that Eli's actually the person that's doing this. I think now we're going to be kind of diving into if Eli is the person that has this and he's affecting other people with this, when did it come about?
Yeah.
Did it come about because of Benjamin, or is the Benjamin tapes not real at all and he's just trying to make in his mind connections to where this could have come from, that it's not from him, so it has to be from somebody else. And because we did with these tapes hear for a while music on them, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, there was this recording over these tapes. Is there a recording over these tapes? Or is this in his mind? There's part of me that thinks that because Eli keeps running into the same woman that's going through treatment as Lynn was going through the same thing, is this sort of the reminder that is coming in for him that is the moment that this disorder came about for him, and that was the trigger?
I think there's a good chance, just because we all sort of know from our limited knowledge of psychology that there can be specific breaking points or trigger points where once you start to undergo that, you don't really view everything the same. But because your memories get so muddled, it's really hard to actually be able to consciously look at that trigger point. A lot of the times it's buried somewhere subconsciously and you really can't figure out how to reach for it.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's one important thing we have to talk about here, which is just moving into the rest of the season. Is it kind of a wrap for Eli? Because Eli was doing his whole brainworm thing while people were seemingly able to watch him. It does not feel like you are going to be able to practice whatever it is that you practice ever again.
Yeah, this is not like Boyd on From, where he had worms and other people were like, I can see them too. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a situation where he went into a room with a child.
Yeah.
He made this incision. He pulled out nothing. The mother is freaking out. The foster mother is freaking out. Doctors have come in. They've seen that Eli has nothing. It feels like this is going to be very difficult moving forward for Eli to be alone with Noah anymore. Like, I don't know how that would be allowed. I wouldn't allow that.
No. I don't think
he'd be like, I need somebody new here with my kid. It's not you.
Yeah, not only is he not going to be allowed to be near Noah anymore, I'm pretty sure they're going to put him in his own room after something like this, especially if he goes there and it's like, well, why did you do this, Noah? And then he's going to say, well, I thought there was something there. I mean, how much on the fly can someone like Eli really be when he's clearly going through a lot mentally and there's not really a lot of a psychological explanation, even for somebody who is in his line of work. I don't know how much sort of medical gobbledygook can he get out there that other people are going to be like, yes, that's interesting, Mr. Doctor. You can just go on your merry way. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
I can't see any explanation that he can put out there that will explain using a scalpel and cutting into Noah's head. There just isn't anything there. Like, unless he actually pulled something out, there's no reason for it. And even if he did pull something out, he shouldn't be doing that. I still feel like he would be pulled off where it was like, well, you should have called somebody.
Yeah, you're
like
not a surgeon.
You're not the person that should have been doing that. You should have called somebody who would come in and deal with this. It can never be you. There's no explaining it. So how does Eli's story moving into the second half of this season continue on where him and Noah are in any way speaking to each other?
This is where I think the supporting cast for this show is going to have to step up to the plate a little bit. And we've seen some, of Eli's family already, but one of my biggest issues with Before so far is that other than basically you've got Eli, you've got Noah, you've got Rosie Perez, like other than like this small group of people, everybody else is pretty much interchangeable to me at this point. Like, I have not had enough time with any of them for me to sit here and be like, okay, this is why you're different. This is why you're special. This is when those people are going to have to actually really contribute something big.
I think his granddaughter is going to come into more play. Like, we had her very briefly talk about the idea that her grandmother is in this lizard and that her grandmother is stuck in the drain, things that she may or may not have actually supposed to have known. It's very interesting to me that Eli was the only person that was with her. Yeah. So if there is this conversion disorder going on, he may be affecting his granddaughter as well. And that might be the thing that comes into play where he might be able to figure out a little more of what is actually happening to him and how it's connected to Lynn, because it's all connected to Lynn in some kind of way.
Yeah, I think the granddaughter is going to be very important. I mean, by extension of that, the daughter could end up being very important. I mean, we saw a little bit of Lynn's mother in this episode, and we heard her basically give her own version of, I know you did it, to Eli. Now, is that something that actually happened? Is that something that was made up in Eli's head? That's hard to say. Yeah. I have a more difficult time thinking that she, at this point in her life, is going to be very valuable to unraveling all of this, but I mean, that's another possibility they could throw out there.
Yeah, I just think that it seems like if he has this disorder, it's affecting children around him. It's affecting his granddaughter and it's affecting Noah. I don't know how we go any further where Eli's going to have any connection with Noah anymore. So, I mean, like I said, if I was his foster mother, I would not allow Eli anywhere near him ever again. And I can't see that any doctors would allow him near him again. So I don't know if we're going into more of the second part of the season focusing on Lynn and her passing and what actually happened in the pool and Eli really diving into the idea that maybe it's him.
I think it's going to be very hard for him to convince anyone to believe him. And I think that's going to be one of the things he's really going to be up against, because he's likely going to be in his own room somewhere. They're probably not going to be letting him out after what just happened. And he's going to have to convince someone to listen to him. And maybe this is where your idea of the granddaughter comes into play, because children have very vivid imaginations and they're probably going to be more inclined to believe whatever it is that he says than, his daughter per se. But it's going to be a fascinating thing for this show to put together. Clearly there's enough time for there to be a lot of other twists and turns. Like, this is not going to be rushed in episode 6.
No, it's not. And we've said this before, but like, I really wish that Apple TV was out there promoting this show in any kind of way. I understand that they love disclaimer and it's the only show they're really pushing. And now they're starting to actually do some silo promotion, which is great. It is here. So that's great. And it's a great show. But so is Before. I can't believe how few people know about this show and that nobody is talking about this show. And it's so good.
I mean, all you have to do is go out there and be like, this dude thinks that worms are living in people's heads and he's trying to pull them out. Like, how can you say no to that pitch?
Yeah.
No, I think this is a really fascinating episode. It's certainly been one of my favorites of the past few weeks. I'm really curious to see where things go, but hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss anything else we have coming up. And speaking of Silo, as you mentioned it, we are covering that, plus another great Apple TV Plus show and Bad Sisters. And if you want to support us more and see our exclusive video reviews of Dune Prophecy, be sure to join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you here next time.